Peace, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Silver Tongue Gorillas. You rocking with Coach Q. And today I want to do a follow-up video on something that I talked about like 2 days ago, which is basically like, how do I know I have a good girl? All right, let me tell you, it's two ways that you know, put very simply, whether or not you have a good girl, a woman, a good woman, a woman that's worth investing in, okay? The first thing is, does she meet your standards? Okay? Does she meet your standards? Okay? That's for you to answer. And it's for you to ask whether or not you're going to budge on your standards. Okay? But does she meet your standards? Do you have hard standards that you feel as though must be followed, or hard standards that must be met? Okay, so first, does she meet your standards? Secondly, is she willing to play by your rules? Gentlemen, if you find a woman that meets your standards and she play by your rules, she's a good girl. Okay, when she stop playing by your rules, you gotta put her over your lap and give her a spanking. All right, or you gotta dismiss her and send her out the door. But ultimately, the point that I'm trying to make to you guys, and look, man, for all of you dudes that got a broomstick up your behind, take it out, okay? Relax. Some of these things are tongue-in-cheek. It's a joke, okay? In terms of putting her over the lap and all, it's a joke, man. The point is this, though, seriously speaking, when it comes to the woman that you are interested in, or that's interested in you, ultimately you got to ask yourself two questions. Does she meet your standards? And is she willing to play by your rules? If you like this woman, if you into this woman, and this woman is into you, and she meets your standards and agrees to play by your rules, then, ladies and gentlemen, you found you a good woman. Now, this is really it. This is what I wanted to say to y'all, man. I think a lot of times, you know, where things get more nuanced is where you start thinking to yourself, well, what are my standards? What are my rules? And what a lot of you guys have to ask yourself is, am I desperate? Am I just desperate to have a woman? Do I have a difficult time with being alone? This is why MGTOW to me is such a beautiful thing, because ultimately what it does for you as a man is it puts you in a position where you have to ask yourself, are you okay being by yourself? If you are not okay being by yourself, then the real question is, there's no way that you can become a superior man. There's no way that you can become who you are supposed to be, your quote unquote potential. There's no way for you to do that if you can't be by yourself. All right, getting a woman is not like making $1 million. Okay, it is really not that hard to get a woman. But if you are desperate to be in a relationship, if you are desperate to be with a woman, then what they say in business, if you're desperate to make a deal happen, 9 times out of 10, you're going to make a bad deal. You're going to make a deal that is out of your favor because of your desperation, which is ultimately why, you know, I say so many of you guys are pussies. Because once you know, it's not about, you know, once you know that a deal is out of your favor, once you know that things are not right, you won't even put the right deal on the table. You won't even put the right deal on the table. You won't even say what you really think and what you really feel, because you're afraid you're going to lose the woman. You're afraid you're going to lose the woman. Therefore, you're going to be back by yourself. You're going to be back pussyless. All right. But that's what makes you a pussy, is that you are afraid to be pussyless. All right. And ultimately, one thing that we know in life is that when we fear something and we avoid that fear, then ultimately we never mature beyond that fear. So ultimately, the exposure creates growth. You have to embrace your fear of losing a woman, but you embracing that fear is of losing a woman is less about her and it's more about you. Okay, it's more about you saying, hey, I'm good by myself, I don't need you. I would love to have you around, but I don't need you. Okay, once you get in that mind frame where you can thrive on your own by yourself, then this is where you truly once again start getting into your potential and your mastery and your ability to reach your potential. You know, as a side note, this is why I have a problem with men coming up with 1,000,001 ways to be with a woman. You know, um, at the end of the day, to me, it just seems like too much time, energy, and effort being spent on chasing as opposed to attracting. The reason why you look past somebody that is 400 pounds, the reason why you look past that person is because you feel like that person has looked past themselves. So the first thing in terms of, you know, a lot of times we talk about the law of attraction. A lot of people don't really understand what that means, but what I'm going to say is this, that a lot of times, you know, the what you are getting from the outside world, it has a lot to do with how you are dealing with yourself, how you are moving around with yourself. I'm not going to say, I'm going to say 1/3 of what you get from the world is based off of how you deal with yourself. So when I say 1/3, obviously I'm an astrologer. Obviously, I'm looking at heaven luck, I'm looking at earth luck, and I'm looking at man luck. And I'm saying, okay, no, I changed that. 2/3 of what you get is going to be based on, you know, your own personal efforts. 2/3 of what you get is going to be based on your own personal efforts. Therefore, what you got to understand is that when it comes to being attractive, you understand it's really about being more attracted to your own self and doing things that it revolve around your self-care and your self-love. Once you begin to do things around your self-care, around your self-love, then automatically you're going to become more attractive to women. Your question will have to be, well, why is she attracted to me? Does she meet my standards? Okay. And does she meet my standards? And does she want to play by my rules? A lot, like I know a guy, he's 30, 36 years old, you know, going to the gym. I wouldn't necessarily call him a man of purpose, but I would say he's a guy that has invested in himself and his health and being physically fit and things of this nature. And he was going to the gym a lot, and it was a woman who met him at the gym who was like going into her 40s, her late 30s, and she was coming on to him, and they had a great time together, had all types of crazy sex outside. Anywhere she could give it to him, she gave it to him. But her whole thing was she had baby rabies. Now, remember, I talk about standards and I talk about that situation is working out good for him. But remember, I talk about standards and playing by your rules. See, at the end of the day, what ultimately happened was now he's living in an RV by himself and the girl basically tried to take him to family court and and just basically kill him off. And she was just going to raise the kids by herself, the praying mantis. All right. What ended up happening is now she got to pay him. She got to pay for his living situation. And he actually ended up coming out on the good side of that. But the problem is, when he went into it, he didn't go into it knowing these different cycles of women and how a woman will try to manipulate you and things of that nature in order to extract your resources, whether that's your semen or your money, your energy, your time, your brain power. He wasn't up on game when it comes to that aspect of female nature, and how it was a short-term, like he was just a short-term solution for her. So now he's moving in the house. Make a long story short, she ended up cheating on him. But what I try to tell you guys all the time is that I took this same guy and I showed him their relationship in astrology. And he was blown away because he was like, "Oh my fucking God, it's everything about this relationship, it says it right here." All right. This is why I always try to talk to you guys. When you like a girl to the point, a woman to the point where you want to go in her raw and bust, you gotta know what the heavens have ordained for that relationship in terms of the natural energy and the natural chemical bond that's going to exist between you two. But on a more simplistic level, because I didn't come here to jump off on that, on a more simplistic level though, what we got to understand, gentlemen, once again, is that having a good girl is all based on you and your standards and what you are willing to do. I have another friend that's 40 years old, and he just had his first baby with another lady that's in her 40s, and they started a life together, and both of them got extremely lucky to be in a position where she could still get pregnant, and he wasn't bringing baggage from the past into the relationship, and she wasn't bringing baggage in terms of like having children or having an ex-husband or ex-wife. They both never been married. Neither one of them have children. Now, hopefully, he doesn't get caught up in a situation where she decides that once she had a baby with him, she don't need him no more. But if she does, once again, we talking about MGTOW, men going their own way. This is fine because you could just continue to keep it moving. The only problem is that this could become a financial detriment to him. All right. But in this particular case, we looking at a woman who hit the wall, basically, and this would be like, in terms of red pill, in terms of the manosphere, this would be one of the like, no. This would be one of the things that you might have standards on. But for him, in his particular situation, where he is in life, this was a perfect situation for him to indulge in right now. And so ultimately, when it comes down to a good girl, we could put all the superficial standards and terms and things of that nature on it. And this is good as a general rule for how, because he's the exception. Both of these men are the exception, not the rule. But with the first example, we see a man that was basically being manipulated, and he ended up coming out on the good side of that manipulation. But nevertheless, he was being manipulated, and he didn't realize he was being manipulated. All right. If he realized he was being manipulated, then he could have set some different terms, because this is something she really, really wanted, you know, and he ended up coming out on the good side by mistake. So once again, gentlemen, good girl, bad girl is overly simplistic. Good woman, bad woman. It's all about you being able to analyze your situation and If God puts something in front of you, yes, I said God. If God puts something in front of you and he put it in front of you in a certain way, that is most certainly, you have to most certainly ask yourself, was this meant for me to indulge in? Because, you know, I want to dig into this a little bit more later, but this idea of man, woman, and God, or man, woman, and then some level of supreme being holding things together. This idea, the reason why it is a good idea is because, once again, we dealing with the Holy Trinity. It brings balance. If you don't have this third thing, two things can't have balance. You need three. Three is the number for balance, not two. Two is the number for extremes. So two basically equals 180 degrees. From 0 to 180 degrees, when people talk about duality, they talking about yin and yang, which is 180 degrees apart, okay? But there's something in between yin and yang at a 90-degree angle, which we call a square. And a square brings foundation. All right. And so when I talk about three being a number of balance and completion, all right, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that square. 3 times 30 equals 90. All right. A square, right angle. All right. So anyways, the fact of the matter is that on one side of the manosphere, we have the men, right? And we have the standards that men have, right? And then on the other side of the manosphere, we have women, and we have the rules and standards that women have and the rules and standards that men have. And then boom, right there in the middle, the foundation, you have God. You have, and when I say God, I'm talking about you have universal knowledge and wisdom that's beyond our ability to fathom, that orchestrates things and puts timing together where you like, yo, this situation, I couldn't have put it together like this. You know, this was put together by a higher source. And see, that's why we always ask the question, if you could know everything, would you want to know everything? Because by knowing everything or thinking that you know everything, you could be blocking your blessings. So I say, if it was a situation, even me as an astrologer, if it was a situation where I had to sit back and ask myself about the idea of knowing everything, I would always have to leave about 30% out there for the chance, for the possibility of a random act from God. I would always have to leave that 30% right there. Meaning that I see a woman, I would say, if I was out here dating, which y'all know that's not what I'm doing. I've been with my wife since 18. All right, but if I was out here dating or whatever, there would obviously be women that, by having my rules and my criteria of what a good girl is, I could easily just, I could slash that. You know what I mean? And just be like, you know what? I'm not dealing with her. 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 I'm not dealing with her, because they got all of their whole makeup, the way that they came to me and I came to them. I could tell it's some bullshit. We just here to fuck, or whatever the case may be. But out of, if I'm, there's just possibilities is what I'm saying. But inside of that, she may not meet all your standards, but she must follow your rules in order to be a good woman, right? Like, that's the floor. That's what I want you to understand, that, yeah, you might get with a woman that hit the wall. You might get with a woman that, that has whatever going on that she got going on, but ultimately she must be able to follow your rules. So this would be the zero tolerance. This would be the no slack aspect of what it means to be a good girl. She must follow your rules. And at the end of the day, when it comes to the standards, you can sort of put that together and figure out for yourself whether or not she meets those standards. If she does not meet all of those standards, then that's a choice that you got to make. Anywho, gentlemen, I definitely hope this helps some of you guys who have, that question about finding a good girl. Like I said, I did another video where I gave standards, Tom Leykis. You can go look up Tom Leykis, the rules of Tom Leykis. You can go look at, a lot of men in the manosphere that will give you a laundry list of standards. So it's not hard to find standards, no single mothers, no cohabitation, it's a lot of things. Now, I know a guy, which was my school teacher. His name was Mr. George the OG. He used to call me a Thundercat because I used to be running crazy. You know what I mean, with the women and all of that, with the shorties. But Mr. George got a divorce and met another woman, and he liked that woman a lot. But Mr. George was MGTOW, so he didn't call himself MGTOW, but he made a very wise decision, which was to raise his 2 sons. He really liked this woman. Him and his woman dated for 10 to 15 years. And he said, nope, you live in your house, I live in my house. We not cohabitating. He laid down the rules. And he said, I want to wait till my sons graduate. If you're not willing to be, I'm not trying to co-parent. I'm not trying to raise a family with you. You a single mother, I'm a single father. The last thing we need to be trying to do is bring all of this shit together and bring all of these dynamics together. That's going to decrease the probability of us having a great relationship. So if we're going to do this, this is how we're going to do it. She said, yeah, they was rocking 15, 20 years. His sons graduated. Her children graduated. They both had their own spot. They decided to get married and do it. And so this is what I'm saying about, those situations where your standards may be, I don't want to fuck with no single mothers, this, that, and the third. But if you meet a single mother and she willing to play by your rules, then there's no reason why and you sincere, you know what I mean? But see, it's no reason why you can't see where that would go. But at the end of the day, gentlemen, a lot of y'all dudes, man, what I'm starting to notice is that when it comes to MGTOW, a lot of y'all dudes don't really just understand that, it's all about being in your frame heavy. It's all about playing life by your rules. Men going their own way is about you playing life by your rules. I think, and this is ultimately what we call freedom. And for men that don't think it's possible to play by your rules, get a pair, grow a set, all right? Because it's plenty of people out here that's willing to play by plenty of women that's willing to play by your rules. You just either got to do one or two things. You got to go deep in solitude and find yourself, like I said, grow a set, find some purpose, and build up your self-confidence and your self-esteem. All right. This is primarily what you would have to do, because no matter what, until you do those things, your relationship is not going to be able to thrive with a woman, because she's going to be your reflection. So she's going to mirror your insecurities. She's going to mirror everything about you. So this is what you need to understand. Anyways, man, this is part 2. Part 1, I gave you some standards, right, to a good girl. But the main part that I left out was the whole thing about following your rules, right? That's mandatory. So like I said, man, I hope this helped y'all. And I'll be back in here with another video. And then look, too, this is what I got to say, right? Now, let's say you this is an opportunity for you gentlemen. All right, my email address is silvertonguegorillas@gmail.com. Anybody that's interested in consultation, coaching, this type of situation, you can hit me up. Now, what do I do in my consultation? What do I do in my coaching? All right. First and foremost, you got two different things you could do. All right. You can either be calling me, emailing me about personal growth and development, or you could be talking to me, or seeking some type of consultation on relationships. All right. Now, if you are looking at consultations on, whether you're looking at personal development or relationships, I take a look at your astrological chart, uh, and I use a couple of systems to do that. So if you are interested in having a consultation with me, you could definitely reach out to me at silvertonguegorillas@gmail.com. I also have a lot of content that I did for astrology and spirituality on my channel, Spiritual Wealth. So, anywho's, man, also to support, man, you can hit the like button, you can hit the share button, share this shit with your peoples on Facebook, on Instagram, however you gotta share it. And I'll be back in here with another video. Peace.